What's up, everybody? Sujan Patel here, the co-host, or the host actually, of Shake Sales. I got Jeremey Donovan. Jeremy's he's a veteran sales leader. He's now EVP, RevOps, and advisor at Insight Partner. Welcome, Jeremey.
Thanks, Sujan. Great to be on the show.
We got a spicy topic today. We're going to talk about our sales reps, salespeople relevant, or where's that going, and what that future of sales really looks like from a people and team perspective, specifically team, right? Let's not talking about like all the AI stuff, but just talk about how relevant are people going to be. So yeah, let's start with that question. I mean, you oversee 100 portfolio companies, advising a bunch of them. They're planning their sales team, their sales roadmap, strategy. What would you do today, right? What are you telling them to do?
Yeah, well, let me start that part again. Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I support over 120 of our portfolio companies. We have over 500 in total, and VCs and everybody else, I think, that you read about is advising people to adopt AI as fast as possible. I've long been a little bit of a slower adoption person. I definitely see, because I have an engineering and product background originally, so I definitely see the benefits in programming. I still code, and it's dramatically increased my productivity. I definitely see the impact on the support side. AI chatbots are awesome, and they even were before the advent of Chat GPT and OpenAI and large language models, and with GPT 4.0 and Claude Sonnet and Gemini, right? Like, these models are insanely great now for those use cases. On the go-to-market side, and we'll put marketing aside and just look at sales, that's where I'm I want to use the word optimism, but very, very cautious about, because the other day I got an email from somebody, an SDR, and it was like personalized, using clearly AI ripped from the headline stuff, that one of our portfolio companies had acquired another company, and then they transitioned immediately into sales compensation platforms with no segue. Like, there was just no connection whatsoever. And I think that's the dark side of this. And I asked them what tool they were using, and I won't talk tools, but they were using one of the leading AI SDR tools. So do I think, I would be naive to say we're never going to get there, but I don't think we're going to get there that fast. The other thing is, I was listening to another podcast, because I listened to a ton of podcasts, yours included, where Mark Roberge was on, and he was saying, like, hey, you got to do a little bit of playing the chess here. What happens when AI voice is flawless? And we're on the cusp of that. It feels like now, right? I mean, certainly it feels like within the next 12 months. What happens is government steps in and then regulates, and then forces people forces the AI when it makes those calls to disclose. So I'm kind of negative for the immediate on what is the ROI. I'm not yet seeing broad spread increases in productivity for teams, right? Like, we're all hard pressed right now to find real examples of where total pure AI has either dramatically increased the quality of prospecting, increased win rates, increased ACVs, increased quota attainment. So I'll pause there, but then I do have a little bit more to add.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You have a unique bench, but we've got, thousands of customers, and I see it all the time. If you go to any tool, any AI tool, and they're all different, but the same-ish, right? Not like the quality will be different. And you did the work, you edited the copy, and you got that, and you sent it off. If you play the volume game, you will run out of leads faster than you'll make more money, because volume has really never worked in sales. It works in brute force for a short period of time, but without the intelligence and filtering and the human intervention of some human beings say, oh, let's slow down here. Let's not outbound, like cold call everybody. Let's cold call the right people. Um, you effectively run out of leads faster than you can,
Yeah.
make money. And in the short term, it works.
And I think you said the key there, which is it's right now, again, this could change as the AI improves, but it's really about augmentation. So what I think where I think the mistake is just letting the system send without review. And I don't mean a 5 second review. I mean, take that example of where that person prospected me. I mean, one is they should have looked at the copy and just made sure that the copy made sense. Two is take a look at the company, right? Like we're a VC. I don't have we don't have sales reps, right? So we don't have sales compensation. We're not in their ICP. We're just not relevant. So just take a beat, and
Hmm.
check the copy, verify the ICP, verify the persona. The other thing, though, to your broader question about like the future of sales teams, the language we're using a lot as we talk about it is to think about jobs to be done, right? So
Hmm.
it's not about the SDR or the pre-sales engineer or the pre-sales AE or the account
Hmm.
manager or the CSM or the whatever, right? Like it's about their job to be done. So you can decompose any one of these jobs into, let's say it's an SDR. I'm going to potentially identify accounts. I'm going to score those and rank those accounts. I'm going to do some research on those accounts. I'm going to find contacts in those accounts. I'm going to research those contacts. I'm going to create messaging. I'm then going to engage them on email, phone, social, whatever. Ditto, you can go through the workflow for AEs, for CSMs, for SEs, whatever. So I think the key in thinking about like one's relevance in sales is to think about what are those jobs that you're doing, and then ask yourself, what's the evolution of augmentation or automation for each one of those functions? So for instance, like account selection and identification, machines forget about large language models. Like predictive AI is very, very, very good for that. And the data that's out there is very, very good for that. So if that's your core skill set, then that's not good, right? So
Yeah.
ditto with research, right? Like now that the large language models are getting to be, more near real time with search, like Perplexity, and the Perplexity engine's a really good example of that, where it's actually using live search, and some of the other ones may as well be doing that now. Like that research piece is great augmentation. So I just think you need to go through each of those roles, and then we're constantly asked, right? Is the X role dead, right? Is the SDR role
Hmm.
dead? Is the separation of account executives on the front end versus account managers on the back end dead? Our CSMs, is that role dead? And it's the answer is like portions of all of those roles are going to change, and and that is also going to change the threshold of where those specialization boundaries exist.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that makes sense. I think it, it, in sales in any position, it's evolve or die, right? The death is usually slow, right? Like I know, I'd say I can name like 5 Fortune 500 companies who do not use any sales engagement software. They're doing cold email by hand.
Yeah,
It still works. They're the laggard in the thing, in that like adoption curve. But so it's a slow death. Like, what outreach sales off Mailshake, we've been around for a decade, and, it's still not adopted at that level. Sometimes that happens. Um, but if you want to be on the cutting edge, go ahead.
yeah. I was going to add, like, I think with those bigger companies, like a lot of times, yes, they're laggards in general, just because it's hard to change a big ship in motion. But it's also that a lot of their business is expansion business. And they've had relationships for 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years, right?
Yep.
With their customers. And like they're not doing a whole lot of cold prospecting. And it doesn't, for a lot of those companies, right, is their smaller deals don't, I mean, they matter to them in mass, but they're going to go through partners for that smaller deals, and those partners will take care of that. where they're engaging is only on the big stuff, like $1 million, even $10 million plus, sometimes $100 million plus contracts. And in that case, you're never going to send a cold email, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not the way those deals happen. That's a top-down relationship based engagement that is developed over years and years. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine he's one of the smartest people I know in enterprise selling. And I was asking, and he's worked for the big, I can't mention companies just because of the nature of my job, but like big tech companies, big tech software companies, the biggest. And I asked him like, what do you do? And he said, one of our tactics is that we figure out the charity that the CEOs or CIOs care about, and usually for those charities, they host an event once or twice a year. We buy a table at the event, right? Those tables might be $10,000, $25,000, whatever. And that table earns them the right to have like a 30-second drive-by with the CIO at the charity event. And your goal in that 30 seconds is just to say like, hey, let's meet, and for that CIO or CEO of that mega corporation to agree and like give you the name of their assistant to schedule a meeting. Like that's it. So you just paid 10 grand or 25 grand to do that. But that's like a thing, right? And
Hmm.
in SMB world, we don't know about that, but that's like what those guys do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's still the hand-to-hand combat for like, I'm going to call that what, like a 7-figure, 8-figure deal. And then the LTV on that is like 20, 30, 50. It's like, it's continuing to keep going. So you don't know always. So yeah, I mean, like, hey, just add a comma to what you're spending on the SMB and there you go. Same thing. But I want to end with one thing, end with one question here because this has been great. I think like we know AI and what's going on is it's going to supercharge everyone. It's going to remove redundant tasks, maybe enable the mid pack, the lower pack of sales reps just to do the basic thing and then get most of the value out of it. Like if you weren't researching companies before a call, you could go to OpenAI or ChatGPT or Claude and like, tell me about these companies' pain points or tell me about what they're investing in or whatever. And you might get a decent answer today. But I want to talk about like, if you were to go build, you've been a multi-seat, sales leader, what would you do, or what you advise your portfolio companies? How would you build out a sales team today? Is there anything different?
Yeah, I mean, if I were starting from absolute scratch, let's say I was evolving from founder-led sales to having an actual sales team, I do see a lot of this where I would follow a lot of like the advice you see out there from Jason Lemkin is start by hiring 2 reps, make sure that they've been there, done that in every way, shape, and form, right? They've worked for similar sized companies, they've sold with a similar motion, similar ACV, as much alignment on product and industry as possible, like as much lookalike as possible, and allow them to be as full cycle as possible as well, and take the time to document. But yeah, I would arm the things I would arm them with from a tools perspective is the usual suspects, right? Like LinkedIn Sales Nav for sure, some kind of sales engagement tool, some contact data. But I personally wouldn't go overboard on the AI tooling right now beyond the free stuff that you can get from the large language models. I'm just I just don't see it. And I absolutely, as we talked about earlier, wouldn't would not turn them on AI SDR autopilot and go from there. I think that's right in late 2024 is not going to work.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Hey, look, what you just described here is building a good old fashioned sales team, right? And you arm them with new tactics and some new tools, some part of it, right? And you see where they go. And I want to make sure I double click or emphasize I would not over index on automating all of this outreach or automating all these
Yeah.
things because it's still too early.
Yeah. And my other word on that is what is strategy? Strategy is people, process, and technology in that order. And so I talked about the people selection. The other is process. That back in, there was a time where, and I think these days are kind of over, but there was a time where it was like, well, let's just hire more reps, right? And that those days are over. So especially with that transition from founder led to kind of regular sales led growth, the it was we as I look at companies, if they don't have a semi-repeatable process, it doesn't have to be perfect, but like the ability for someone who's not the CEO to engage, if they don't have that, you got to slow down. And I don't think I'm saying anything that everyone else is not saying, but that's another
Oh,
key
yeah,
is like understand how you're going to open the door and then how you're going to advance those opportunities. If you don't know that, it's too soon.
absolutely. And especially at the stages of companies you're talking to, you can easily jump to step 5 before you jump to figure out step 1. And congratulations. And we did this early on. I've seen this many times. And now you have congratulations. Now you have all these phone calls and demos and leads. Still haven't figured out what to sell them, what the right price is, what's the right process, and everything else in between, right? So,
Yep.
I love it. Jeremy, where can people go to kind of follow along and keep learning from you?
Yeah, I used to say I'm hyperactive on LinkedIn, but I'm now active on LinkedIn. So I'm sure everyone says the same thing. And I do respond to direct messages. Just don't pitch me that, then I will block you.
Love it. Yeah. So follow Jeremy, don't pitch him and ask him questions, especially if you're a sales leader. But hey, look, before you, ask Jeremy a question, go ask ChatGPT, put in Jeremy's profile and ask ChatGPT how he would answer this. You will likely get a good answer from you've been doing this for like 20 plus years. All the stuff you posted online, like index and then answered instead of asking you stupid questions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
Love
yeah,
it.
happy to respond to folks.
Well, appreciate your time, and have a good day.
Thanks.